Hello everybody, we have a good one today. I will be going over my good friend Jordan's portfolio. Whether you know him as Stabulo or Jordan, this will be good. Jordan is one of the most active members on our Discord community, link in the description, and he talks a big game. But does his portfolio really back it up? Keep watching to find out. And before we get into a video, I typically ask for you guys to subscribe, which is of course the same for this one, but it would mean so much if you guys could check out my other channel, Cashflow Kings. The link will be in the description. Me and Fiscal are posting so much stuff over there on the weekly, so if you're looking for extra content out of me or him, I'd suggest go over there. With all that out of the way, roll the intro.
Hello, I like money.
And hey you, right there, do you want me to go over one of your portfolios? Join the Discord link in the description and message me from there. On to the video. Alright, before I'd like to get into these holdings in the portfolio itself, I'd like to know the investor's age, goals, and other stuff, especially because my investing strategy might be different from yours. While you may be 50 years old and looking for retirement, dividend yield, and income, I may be looking for more growth and outperformance over the long term. So it's good to clarify that Jordan is much more growth oriented when it comes to his positions. From what I know, he is on the younger side. And from the conversations that we have had, he is much more looking towards those companies that produce consistently growing free cash flow, have a moat you could even say, consistent good earnings, and just powerhouses of companies overall. So today I'm going to be going over all of his holdings. But before we get into that, also I'd like to talk about his performance because I think that is something we do need to mention right now. We can see his 2023 earnings are very solid when it comes to price appreciation. He's up 26.12% on the portfolio, which is much better than mine. When it comes to his portfolio value itself, it is in the $10,000 range. Now, he is in the UK and uses pounds as currency. So let's get into the holdings in it, bro. Alright, to start the portfolio off, we'll start with one of his largest holdings, which is S&P Global, which right now makes up 18.2% of his portfolio. S&P Global is a data processing company, and they have so many business segments, which makes them a really appealing company when it comes to a diversity standpoint. Every time one of those index funds are basically made off of the S&P Global or Dow Jones, S&P Global is taking a chunk of that in one of their parts of their business. They also have data processing, so every time you turn on something like CNBC and you see all the stock tickers with the prices in real time and all that at the bottom, that's S&P Global behind it. It's one of those businesses that's going to be needed as we continue going towards a more technology-based world. It's actually a company that I've just bought into recently myself, and I've identified it as one of those compounder-type companies. With that said, though, there are a lot of moving parts to their business. Before I buy more, I would like to do my own valuation metrics on it, do a really much deeper dive into the business itself. I know the surface stuff right now, but I'd like to get a lot deeper before I buy in more. It's a company that's definitely going to be needed for generations to come, and that's what I think is really appealing about it. Also, they're financially very strong as a business too. They have a strong growing dividend. Their free cash flow growth is really solid as well, with it expected to continue growing in the 12 to 14% range for years to come. S&P Global is an amazing company that I'm doing more research on, but I definitely do like it as a position. Next is FICO, which is a Fair Isaac Corporation. Now, FICO is one of those companies that always trades at a premium. FICO is his largest position right now, making up 18.63% of his portfolio, and he's up 2.92% on his FICO position. FICO is a credit rating business, very naturally monopolistic when it comes to those type of credit rating businesses. Obviously, you have Moody's, S&P Global, FICO, but definitely a business that I'd be intrigued to look at. With that said, though, there are a lot of moving parts to these type of companies and businesses, and before I'd like to, obviously, as I mentioned kind of with S&P Global, before I dive into these companies, I like to know really what's going on. I like to stay within my circle of competence, which is a mistake that I've made in the past. Next, making up 17.46% of his portfolio, it's of course Fortinet, not Fortnite. Fortinet is a cybersecurity company, and as I mentioned kind of with S&P Global, it's one of those companies that I feel as the world goes more technology-based, they're going to benefit a lot from that. I don't know a whole lot about them fundamentally as a business, but looking quickly at their financials, they do look very strong. They have good free cash flow growth. They don't pay a dividend, but definitely Fortinet is one of those companies that I feel definitely will benefit over long term. With that said, though, me personally, I'm not touching it as I don't understand the business itself, and there hasn't been a crazy track record of how these cybersecurity companies will do. With just those companies itself, that makes up nearly half of his portfolio. Now, me personally, the max that I'd really have a position, unless I was super confident in it, would be 12.5, 15%. So I mean, these are a little over for sure, but from the conversations that we've had, he is very confident in these three companies itself, and he's done his large thesis on it. But a question I'd have for him definitely is, how is he going to diversify that? Is he planning for it to be in those higher ranges when it comes to allocation of the portfolio? Maybe spread it out to some of the companies that are in lower allocation right now that I'm eyeing at the bottom that I really do like. Next, making up 7% of his portfolio, he has Lam Research Corporation. This is a company that I don't know much about, but they are a semiconductor, and looking at them quickly financially, they do look very strong when it comes to the free cash flow department and growth there. Making up 6.59% of his portfolio, he has Applied Materials, another semiconductor company, so obviously we can kind of tell here that he's very bullish on the semiconductor growth over long term, which I can agree with for sure. I definitely think the world is going to go more digital. With that said, though, he is placing a huge bet on this when it comes to his portfolio with companies like S&P Global, Fortinet, AMAT, and Lam Research Corp. I think there's definitely a big bet when it comes to the growth of technology in the future. And the party's not over, because coming in at 6.38% of his portfolio, we have ASML. Now, with me overall with semiconductors, it is a very difficult industry for me personally to kind of understand, and something that I've been working on is staying inside of my circle of competence, finding companies that I understand very well when it comes to their business fundamentals, cash flows, financials, etc. And these are businesses with high capital expenditure requirement and lots of stuff moving on. So it's not the craziest appealing thing for me, but I do think over the long term it will grow. Coming in at 5.09%, of course, it's another semiconductor company, which is KLA Corporation. I don't know much about this one at all. Me personally, the semiconductors are not my area of expertise, so I'm not going to make a good or negative comment there. Alright, coming in at 4.5% of the portfolio, we have the definition of 10% free cash flow growth year over year, which is of course the stock Microsoft, stock ticker MSFT. Microsoft, I believe it is the highest quality business in the world. I've recently been doing some free cash flow metrics when it comes to the valuation of this company, and I'm liking it in the $350, $360 range when it comes to its fair price. So Microsoft's a company, it's the largest holding in my portfolio right now personally. I do own a lot, so I mean it would have to go on a bit of a dip for me to continue adding more, but I do think long term right now Microsoft is pretty fair price when it comes to its free cash flow growth, business fundamentals, and all that good stuff. They're a very strong business. I think they have a lot of potential personally with gaming over the long term as well, especially if the Activision Blizzard deal goes through. But you guys already know my thoughts on Microsoft. I love it so much as a company. I think there's no reason it shouldn't be up there with S&P Global, FICO, Fortinet. Next is Apple, making up 4.46% of the portfolio. Apple with Microsoft is such an amazing quality company, but I am noticing a huge trend in your portfolio. It is very tech and semiconductor oriented. So I mean, if anything crazy were to happen, you wouldn't have a crazy amount of diversification kind of out of that. Over the long term, though, I think these are good bets to make. Apple's such a great company, whether it be their crazy buyback program they're doing. I'm hoping over the long term their dividend will get growing as well. Apple also could be one of those companies when it comes to the over 10% allocation in your portfolio, but obviously I'd assume you're kind of waiting out to add more right now, wait for it to go on a bit of a dip, which I'd be fine with. Next, you have, of course, the payment processing giant MasterCard, stock ticker MA, coming in at 3.91% of the portfolio. Visa and MasterCard are two of the highest quality companies in the world. They're definitely in industries where I feel I personally understand the payment processing industry very strongly, and it's inside my circle of competence. Visa is my one payment processing stock at the moment. Next, he has Google, making up 4.07% of the portfolio. Google is a very high quality business besides their search engine. I think they own the most valuable media entertainment platform on the world right now, which is YouTube. I really do like Google, and I got to do some more research, but it's definitely a candidate to be one of those companies added in my portfolio on a good dip. I wish I would have bought some at 105. I was very close. And lastly, for the portfolio, he has 3.63% of his portfolio in Visa, stock ticker V. Visa is pretty much the same company as MasterCard. They're such giants, and I love them both so much. Alright, so those are his 12 holdings. In my opinion, his portfolio is very good long term when it comes to the growth side of things, but I think you could have some room to add some potential stable stocks, or quote unquote boring stocks as they call it. I understand that you're looking for compounders and companies that are going to grow their revenue and free cash flow 12 or 15% every year, but I don't think there's anything wrong with finding some solid businesses that are just staples, companies like McDonald's that you could potentially add to your portfolio over the long term, just kind of balance things out. Maybe during a tougher economic time, that would hold up in your portfolio better. A bit of a red flag I see too, which I mean over the long term, if it pays off, it will be a green flag for you, is the amount of semiconductor exposure you have here. It's a crazy amount, and it's over half of your portfolio. So obviously he's done his deep research on semiconductor and the whole industry overall. But me personally, I wouldn't love having half of my portfolio tied up in that, but over the long term, it's a bet that he's willing to make. I would love for you to potentially make Microsoft, Apple, Visa, and MasterCard core holdings in your portfolio. I don't see why not, but I would like to hear your reasoning in the comment section. But overall, I like the portfolio a lot. I give it an 8 out of 10. And yes, he's right and I'm wrong. I want to thank Jordan for sending in his portfolio and being open and transparent about it. Not a lot of big YouTubers will do that, so props to him. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for the support. We recently hit 1,500 subscribers, so thank you all so much. It really does mean a lot. Enjoying making these videos. Thank you all. If you want to send your portfolio, do it in Discord, link in the description. Subscribe, become a channel member today, and of course, do dividend stocks, not drugs. Have a good one.